Hello again, welcome to another Toku Ramblings, take number 3 on this, because I wasn't happy with the first one, and then the second one I got interrupted, but we are finally here for Inoue's, currently, we will see what the future brings. Last Kamen Rider for a moment, Kamen Rider Kiva. So, I'm gonna take this more in a, let's talk positives first, the mixed stuff, and then the negatives, because I feel like that's a better thing for this. So, let's get the big positive I think we can all agree with here. The overall aesthetics and suit designs. This is an incredible looking season. And all of the suits look phenomenal. That main suit, the aesthetical choice, the regality of it, the colors. It may have been a pain in the ass to wear for the main suit runner, Seiji Takaiwa. Takaiwa? I think that's how you pronounce the last name. But it is gorgeous. I also do really like the final form, even if it kind of just becomes more the main form of the addition of gold and the cape. I'm always fond of capes for more regality. Ixa looks really great and fits the more church soldier motif. Saga, I really wish they used more of with the paint glass that he has going on his chest. And just swaps it out for Dirk Kiva, which is probably my least favorite suit just because it's recoloring an old suit. And all the Fangirls just look really, really solid. Like, these are some of the best looking monsters in the series, in my opinion. Other positives, or full positives that don't have like some kind of however attached to it. Yeah, let's just get to mixed. I guess the first mixed thing is just the movie. It happened. It's there. It's probably the most forgettable of the summer movies I have seen. Criminals possessed by monster that the Vanguard King killed years ago and is now out for vengeance and creates mummy zombie apocalypse. It's okay, it's fine, it's nothing particularly special. It's there. This story, so it's split between 2008 and 1986, focusing on the Kurenai family, or just the Kurenai father and his son. Wataru is the main protagonist of 2008, where he fights as Kiva and slowly goes from socially awkward or an outcast who collects weird things to create his own version of Bloody Rose, his father's unique magnum opus of a violin, and to being more personable with people. And meanwhile, in 86, Okia's trying to get into the pants into the latest person that has catched his eye. So, I could say if I was watching this, like, week to week, I kind of would feel like the dual nature of the story and just kind of flipping around might get a little difficult to follow. Kind of also because, outside of, like, the fashion, they really don't do much to differentiate the eras. Nothing looks older, or like there's been renovations here and there. I get it's Toku show, they can't really be that expensive, but like even like maybe a simple grainier film quality to it to show that we've gone back in time, something like that. But it is a lot better to follow when you're just doing like when you're more consistently following it, like either binging or just episode to episode, so day by day. Sadly, said story is riddled with lost potential. So that is this show's biggest issue. There is a whole lot of interesting and cool ideas it has going for it that it really doesn't follow up on. So, I think the big thing that comes to mind is just the additional monster races they have going for it. We only learn about 3. The werewolves, the merman, and the Frankenstein monster. And they're never really brought up again after that. And it kind of feels like the latter 2 were brought up just because I get the feeling Inoue was also given, like, notes to follow because, you know, Denno was extremely popular. Lots of people liked Den. Oh, so let's try and recapture some of that magic here. So, like I'm guessing one of those notes was, hey, make a group of monsters that assist our hero, and also, like, gives them forms. Because Jiro gets some plot stuff. He's sort of like the main antagonist of, like, the first portion of Kiva's 86 portion. More so for Otia, because he also has a thing for Yuri, because she's a strong woman and he wants strong genes to help rebuild the werewolf race. Ramon and Riki, barely one-note characters who just kind of exist to have, like, one joke or one thing for them, and that's kind of it. Like, Ramon is kind of trying to go for that, Ryutaro's kind of crazy psycho thing for him, and Riki's the big strong oaf one, so that's kind of it. They really don't have the charm that the originals had going for them, and they really don't offer much to story outside of getting curb stomped and being friends with Jiro. Who, I liked, as he kind of goes from being, like, arch rival to best bro to be there for Otia after he kind of chills out after he gets dumped by Yuri. Alright, that's good. That's one of the better characters this season has going for it. And I guess I can also throw in Otia for this sort of mixed thing. I was not fond of him at the beginning. Getting, like, legitimately distasteful for him, who constantly fought more with his lower extremities than his actual head. But, as I got to know him better, and when he started to show more heroic traits that was clearly trying to be the modern guy Yuki, I came more around to him. I think it also helps that Maya also helped to bring out better personality traits in comparison to Yuri, who those two had no chemistry at all. I'm sorry, I did not see those two as a couple. I know it's weird, but yeah. Yeah, and, like, when he does get his dying moment of awesome, it really does sting a bit. Like, yeah, I had problems with him. I thought his whole shtick got old really fast, and his covetous nature of Yuri just to dump her when someone else came along was icky, scummy. But I would say I didn't hate him, which is ironic because I kind of turned around on his son a lot more. So, again, I feel like it was a case of, hey, here's some studio notes to follow for this. If you could follow them, that would be great. And so we have a more atypical protagonist for the time. Whereas Ryota was kind of weak, meek, and kind of very lucky. Wataru feels more antisocial, weird. That kind of weird kid you probably knew in school. And, I sort of related to him initially. I was also kind of that weird kid in high school that everyone didn't know what was doing. And, I kind of related to his struggles with, communicating and interacting with people. I kind of wish they handled Kiva with him in suit a bit differently, because in Agito, it was initially like he became a different person when he was initially Agito. And already Shuichi was a very competent, almost Gary Stu level of fighter. Wataru is not that. He is initially very antisocial, but once Fangaru show up, he's become extremely competent, stoic. Like, I know they were trying to, like, help to differentiate him, which I guess I did kind of skip up this. The fight scenes in this show are really great. Like, yeah, if you know how those suits were on the actor, when you see scenes like Kiva hanging upside down and fighting, you're just like, oh, that could not feel. But it's animalistic. It feels wholly unique for it. it kind of loses that uniqueness once Emperor shows up, and especially once he gets the sword. But, it's still overly solid to a point. But, again, it feels like there is a difference between Wataru the character and Wataru the fighter that's not really, meshed together. But I say I kind of soured on it a bit more once he gets his whole love triangle thing in the present between him, his childhood friend Taiga, and the meek girl Mio, who is the same woman who played the main girl from Fives. I'm blanking on that at the moment. But I am surprised at how well she has aged. I was surprised that she still looked that young. But it's just he just becomes so meek about, he just can't decide on things. I get it. It's your best friend and the girl you have a crush on. But it just gets annoying when he doesn't make a decision that ultimately makes things worse. Yes, he ultimately comes around once he realizes that he has a responsibility to do outside of just simply ending his own life. In a standard emo, typical, oh, I can't go on anymore with all this tragedy behind me sort of thing. I don't think he's one of the worst protagonists. I think he's flawed. He starts out okay, but gets worse. Yes, but, going back to that, wasted potential, obviously there is, the additional monster races. Nothing is really done with them. They just kind of are brought up, and that's kind of it. But then there is stuff the Blue Sky Organization can also make their own free souls. Never brought up again. Saga just disappears after Dark Kiva becomes a thing. And again, the whole half Vanguard thing. I noticed while I was reading this show just takes a lot in previous Inoue shows, which probably was the reason why the show didn't initially hit well. It was just Inoue was just repeating stuff he had done before, and if you thought he did it better, say our main character being one of the monster race, or in this case half of the monster race, or the jerkish, or the super happy, naive male helper in Kengo, then you kind of just feel like this show is inferior to a point. Also, we don't really learn what happens to Megumi's mother or Yuri. I feel like the last time we see her is that she's holding Otia as he dies, because, let's get into them. The Asas are disappointing in terms of being action female hero. They spend most of their time, obviously they do well when we need to know, oh, they can kick ass. They're really cool and stuff. But once it comes to, main threats, they drop in, competency. Obviously they get, the big final epic action scene against their main rival, the Lion Fangire, who I liked. I thought he was a good, starter general for the first arc to have for the 86 and 08 portions of the story, and them getting to be the ones to help bring him down, I think, was nice. It was neat. It was, the one thing. The issue is after that, they really don't have much to do, since that was, their main motivation. And, Yuri still has, the next love triangle between her, Otia, and Maya, but Megumi gets the most out of left field romance with Keisuke. That just feels weird, and I just don't get why that happens, and it's another thing of just repeating a thing that was done beforehand, because Keisuke gets blinded, and now she has to guide him just like Makoto had to be guided by... Fuck me, I'm blanking on so many names when I have to focus on one thing. Really need to make these notes. But yeah, the slugs... Toru Hojo, yeah, I needed to look that up real quickly, sorry about that. But yeah, I've been really over the place with this like thing. I was like mixed, but then I started talking about a lot of other things. But Keisei's fine. He's okay. He's not. He's sort of a Kusaka light in that he has that weird quirk of something he does, i.e. this one gets buttons and has something out for the main writer, though it's more so the actual writer and not the character. I feel like he never really reaches that scumbag thing and more just becomes more a straight anti-hero than just anti-hero slash anti-villain that Kusaka sort of was. But I like he did get sort of some development going from pompous jerk to still a air of arrogance, but nowhere near as annoying. I thought the fan guys were also pretty solid. I'm probably gonna get a lot of hate for this, but I do kind of think they're better than the Orphanox. One thing I like is that we see like this is like a secret civilization trying to live their lives, and we see Fangars who really don't want to kill humans. That's something that Fies never really delved into by comparison. It was mostly just the Orphanox we saw, and then like Smartbrain. That was kind of it. Yeah, but even as early as the episode, we see like this one musician who really doesn't want to hurt people, but is ultimately hunted down because of his orphanoc nature. That is really nice. The main quintet is okay. Hey, Lion's a fine first general, real crazy and a bit of a blood knight. I thought Rook was like this solid example of like the old guard like struggling against like the new guard and how they deal with things. I do think both queens are like the best part of it. I really like them. Like I thought she brought out the better aspects of OT. She was regal. She was not willing to take King's garbage, and she kind of became a good mentor, mother figure in her later years to the others, and also Mio was the better tragedy here. She's a ditzy, clumsy girl who really you would not believe is a fangire, but ultimately is pushed into that, and also by extension the relationship she doesn't want that brings her to attempting to kill Taiga, which I thought was really sad. I thought that in terms of chemistry, that was a decently well-worked love triangle that you kind of felt bad for everyone involved in it, or you kind of wish for the best for all of you. The original King, I definitely is very much just the stern, stoic, oh god, there he is, you better be careful because he is going to screw you up. That is a threat. I feel like this is a much better final fight than, the Orphanoc King, who was barely a character outside of being a small kid. Yeah, when he comes back, he's basically just a zombie, but we know how much of a threat he is. We see it when he becomes Emperor Kiva and just wipes the floor with the free last survivors of the monster. So that is something I think this show does really well compared to Files. It makes the villains feel more like a civilization, and it's definitely a much better take on the Roy Muse. I definitely would prefer I do prefer the Roy Muse just because Hart is that much better a character. But it's solid. Also Taiga. I'm over it. I like Taiga because as a sort of initial opposite to Wataru, in that he was a lot more confident and also showed that he was more than willing to dirty his hands if things came to. But he definitely gets the love makes you crazy stuff of once Mio dies. But it makes sense because you could feel that he did fall for her. I like the actor, which ironically he played the other evil writer from the movie, which I was surprised by. But I liked the relationship he had with Wataru as they learned about their half brothers, and like this initial animosity that slowly becomes less of that. Have we done everything that I think is mixed or good? Yeah, let's get to the main bad thing. Just like characters who just exist or just like have weird jumps. So like there's Shizuka, the Hana stand-in, who serves the role initially as this kind of Wataru's initial friend, but once Wataru gains more friends, it's just like that's it. There's nothing really else to it. It's honestly one of the worst aspects of this, that nothing is really done with her, and that goes also for Mamoru Shima, the leader of the Blue Sky organization, which we really don't see much of. Like, not much of it at all. They just kind of are there. Kengo just makes this weird jump from being the rockstar friend to military jerkass. Like, that's definitely the biggest problem with the story. People jump through character arcs that we do not see, or just make jumps that make no sense. Like, obviously, I think the romance stuff is the worst aspect of it, because Yuri goes from being like, I tolerate you at best, to like, I love you. I did not see that happening. There is little in this season that sometimes feels natural to an extent. Like, Inoue kind of forgot to write the character arcs that make them get to this place, but we really don't see it much, and it doesn't really matter for too long. And that's what's frustrating, because this could have been the best of Inoue's writer works, but between the numerous, like, reused plot points, the frustrating lack of coherence, and just mid-stories, this one is definitely one I would cautiously recommend as something to watch. It's not the worst, it's just disappointing. And you know what? After this, I feel like it deserves a treat. So, back to Ultraman with Nexus next time. So, do the usual things to keep me in the YouTube algorithms, and we'll see you then.